Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex P. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Monday, December 18th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, ready to break down the Monday NHL card. We've got 5 games on tap. This is our final week of shows before the Christmas break. We're on the air each day this week, Monday through Saturday. Saturday will be our final show, a huge card on Saturday, December 23rd at noon Eastern. And then after that, we're off on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and what they call Boxing Day in Canada, which is December 26th. And then we will be back on Wednesday, December 27th. That'll be our first show after the Christmas break. So that's our schedule for the next week. We'll get to the Monday games in just a moment. We'll get to the Sunday recap briefly in just a minute. I kind of wish I had taken a sick day and a day off like Alex did yesterday, because that card yesterday was hideous and it didn't treat me well. And I was thinking to myself in retrospect, Jesus, all these big favorites, man, I should have lightened the load a little bit. But we actually, you know what? I kept the unit small, but the volume was still there like normal with yours truly. So that I regret. But anyway, hopefully bigger and better things today. But we got to start with the big breaking news. About an hour ago, DJ Smith fired as head coach of the Ottawa Senators. And to be honest with you, I thought they would make that decision after last night's loss. The question was going to be, would they announce it and would they make it official after or today while the road trip is still going? Because Ottawa's right in the middle of this Western road trip. Sometimes what these teams do is when they're on the road like this, like Ottawa is, they'll wait till they get home to make the announcement of the coaching change. But no, they've announced it right away today after that pretty awful performance against Vegas last night, that they've made the change. DJ Smith out. Jacques Martin takes over as the interim coach. Of course, he's been brought in as a coaching consultant here in the last couple of weeks by the Ottawa Senators. So not at all a surprise to see him get the interim job, at least in the meantime. So that's not really that shocking to me. What's a little bit more surprising is that Daniel Alfredsson will become an assistant coach here for the Ottawa Senators. Although if you harken back to the Global Series in Stockholm, Sweden, we also remember that he was behind the bench in a guest coaching role. That now, when you look back on it, kind of feels like maybe they were just testing the waters and giving him an audition of sorts, if you will, for maybe what if we put Daniel Alfredsson in a full-time coaching capacity behind the bench, either as an assistant or a head coach at some point. And sure enough, now here he is, the legendary Ottawa Sen, probably the greatest Ottawa Senator of all time to this day. Now will be an assistant coach with this change that has been made behind the bench with Jacques Martin, the interim head coach. It's just gotten away from Ottawa. It's been a combination of weak defense, goaltending issues. I mean, Korpisalo and Forsberg, from a consistency standpoint, have not lived up to the bill. You've seen some of their forwards even underachieve just a little bit at times this year. And you've just seen special teams has been kind of a problem area throughout the course of the season with consistency for Ottawa, and just the way they've lost some of these games. They've been blown out in multiple games of late. They've had leads in games in multiple games of late and blown them and lost, like the Dallas game on Friday night, which I think was one of the final catalysts toward this change being made, was just the way they lost that Dallas game, which was about as awful as it gets because they had multiple 2-goal leads. And they ended up losing 5-4 to the Stars that night. But change has to be made. Like they thought coming into this year, again, they were win now mode, make the playoffs. Now's the time. We're ready for this. And so far, at least, they have proven they're not ready for this. And they figured a change has to happen now to see if they can salvage this season, because that's where we're at. I mean, they still have this sentiment with the Ottawa front office that they can be a playoff team. And right now, when you look at this squad, if they're going to try to make a change and get their season back on track, it's got to happen now. You got to make this change now and see what happens. I don't know if this is going to be enough to get Ottawa back into the playoff mix this season, but they have to make a change. And this is one where I can't say the coach didn't deserve to get fired. I think there had to be a change. For DJ Smith, it's been too many bad losses. It's been too many results where you've pissed away points. This is different from Jay Woodcroft, where I thought the firing was not really deserved for him. This was different. I thought it was time. DJ's run his course. He's had opportunity last year to turn this team into a playoff group, underachieved. He's had opportunity this year to make them a better hockey team, and it didn't happen. And it was time to make a change. So now, of course, like with every coaching change, it goes to the players. And I will say this, Alex, before I turn it over to you about this coaching change. With Jacques Martin, if you know anything about Jacques Martin going back to when he coached Ottawa initially in the early 2000s and late 90s, this is a defensive-minded coach. If you're not going to play 200-foot game, you're not going to play for Jacques Martin. You have to be responsible away from the puck. And so I'm wondering if this is going to turn into a bit of an under team from a totals perspective. If we see this team really try to change their spots and really play tighten defensive play in their own zone, that's going to be a fascinating development moving forward, because I know I can tell you that's definitely the way Jacques Martin is going to want this team to play. And will they be turning into more of a tighter, more conservative team that maybe doesn't take as many chances, doesn't pitch the defensemen? And they have defensemen galore like Sanderson and Shabbat and Chikrin that just love to jump into the play. Will they maybe not be doing that nearly as much now with a very defensive-minded head coach taking over the reins, at least in the interim, in Jacques Martin? Alex, what do you think here are the big news coming out of Ottawa?
Yeah, I mean, we were speculating for the longest when DJ Smith would get fired, and like I said, we just weren't really sure when. There seemed like a few different times where they could have made this move. Like I said, go on and do it now, and go back to that trip in Sweden where that's kind of where I think the majority of us thought, when they come back from that trip, that he'd probably be getting the axe. And we noticed Daniel Alfredsson on the bench, and we thought, okay, well, he's in Sweden. Like you said, he's the greatest center of all time, just kind of making it seem like it was this kind of ceremonial thing. They didn't do that for one game. They did it for both games. And that kind of just sparked something in my head that maybe that's signaling some kind of, in having him a little bit more involved with the players in the bench and being on the bench directly. Sure enough, now he's the assistant with Jacques Martin coming as head coach. And like you mentioned, obviously his tenure back from 96 to 2004 would certainly be a lot different than now, just because of just how everything has changed with the game. His last coaching job was in 2012. Ended up getting fired with Montreal. He's also with Florida. And I forget about that Florida tenure. He got that job following up with Mike Keenan. Of course, he's a Mike Keenan guy going back to their days when he was an assistant with the Blackhawks in the 89, 90, 91. So, like I said, yeah, he's going to be defensive-minded, but he's got to have some kind of offensive creativity in store. Maybe that's where Alfredsson comes in. Maybe he's going to be the guy that kind of runs things from an offensive standpoint. And I just believe this coaching hire, though, is kind of a setup role to possibly maybe move Alfredsson into the head coaching spot.
I should hope so, Alex, because he's 71, Jacques Martin. Like, this is not going to be, he's going to be the coach for 5 years. That's not happening. No.
Yeah, well, then you never know, because, we saw Sutter get a 3-year deal, and he was, up in age. So crazier things have happened, but I really do believe this seems to be like a kind of a training almost role for Daniel Alfredsson to probably be led in as the coach. And I think that's a decent idea, especially, if you're trying to cater to the fan base. It's new ownership. They aren't happy about the arena being 100 miles away, from downtown and all these different things. So maybe trying to bring, a fan favorite back into the role would kind of help. But, going this young and inexperienced from a coaching standpoint, down the line, if this is what we're seeing at the transfer of power, where Martin finishes the year, Alfredsson gets announced at the end of it, the beginning of next year. That, I don't know. I think that might be rushing it a little too bit. And you don't want to get into this whole kind of, semblance where certain teams like Chicago, like Minnesota, like a lot of places where they get so caught up on having a former player or somebody who's been with that organization. You don't want to get caught into that rut, because I've seen a lot of franchises in many different sports get stuck in that hole, and then it's hard for them to break out of it. So, I hope that they kind of know what they're doing here by just throwing Alfredsson and Martin into the mix, because this just seems like it's just a mess of, let's just get some old guys in to patch things up right now and keep things floating. But there could be some growth and potential moving forward.
Yeah, and it's going to be fascinating. We won't have to wait much longer to see the Ottawa Senators in the first game with Jacques Martin in the interim. And, of course, Daniel Alfredsson is an assistant, because they're back in action tomorrow against the Arizona Coyotes. So we'll see how that game plays out tomorrow night. And, of course, we will talk about that game tomorrow on the show. As far as the Sunday games, Vancouver 4-3 against Chicago. Pretty solid effort by the Blackhawks, but they fall just short to the Canucks. 2-1 Washington in a shootout. Gosh, Carolina, man, what an erratic bunch, huh? They have those couple games at the end of the road trip, get back on track, blow a lead to Nashville. I thought it was a nice spot to bounce back, and the offense dries up. Couldn't get anything going yesterday against Washington. They lose in a shootout 2-1. Vegas 6-3 again against Ottawa, which was probably the final nail in the coffin for DJ Smith, as we just talked about. 6-2 Colorado over San Jose, a nice bounce back for the Avs last night after the loss to Winnipeg the night before. And then, of course, the surprise of the night, the Anaheim Ducks rising up and just spanking the New Jersey Devils 5-1 last night, finally snapping this ugly losing streak. And it felt like kind of an Anaheim spot to maybe snap it. New Jersey was on a back-to-back after a very, very comfortable win against Columbus. And sure enough, Anaheim finally got going. And Adam Henrique, man, he has done serious damage. I don't know what New Jersey did to piss him off, but ever since he's gone back there multiple times to play the Devils, since he's been with other teams, including Anaheim, he has made them pay. And he had a hat trick last night in the victory for the Anaheim Ducks. So great to see for Anaheim, snap the win streak. But now they're in a tough spot tonight, which we'll get to in a minute. They're back in action tonight, second of back-to-back, third and 4 nights on the road as they face Detroit in tonight's card. But Alex, brief thoughts on Sunday's action.
Yeah, like I said, it wasn't the greatest of a card, and I didn't really like much of anything. There was a couple of things I jumped in on live that didn't come through. The Hawks, I like them kind of coming back, and that was a tough spot for them. 2:00 start. Of course, the team had traveled to be with Kevin Korchinski and his father's funeral service. A great gesture to see, and you saw the energy there with the Hawks early, and it's interesting. I normally would be on first period both teams to score, but I wasn't sure what we see from the Hawks early in the game. I figured that the Hawks might bring a little bit of energy late in the contest, and I thought that Vancouver, especially in the second of a back-to-back, but already playing a day game, might have matched that effort. It was actually quite the opposite. First period, Chicago dominated. And then the second period, it was just all Vancouver as they ended up coming back and rolling away with the win there. So the Hawks struggling yet again. Good win for Vancouver. That's a game that they would normally lose in previous years. And I did edge work earlier this morning with So Money, who's a Canucks fan, lives in Vancouver, and he said the same thing about how this weekend for them to get 3 points out of a possible 4 shows the growth and sign of this Canucks team. Where 2, 3, 4 years ago they would have got crushed. Certainly in a back-to-back spot with on day games like that against non-division opponents. So a good sign for them. Anaheim and New Jersey. Where's this Ducks team been the last 2.5 weeks? Trying to jump in and grab a potential spot on New Jersey live when they were down just 2-1, and they completely laid an egg. Lucas Dostal had to come in for an injured John Gibson in the third period. Thought that might have shaken things up in the favor of New Jersey, and if anything, it gave more life to Anaheim. Like you said, Adam Henrique going off, getting the hat trick there for the 5-1 win. So it'd be nice if Anaheim could continue to play like that as somebody who holds a plus 1,100 ticket for them to make the playoffs. But I don't know if that remains to be seen. In New Jersey's goaltending, I mean, there's a lot of teams who have goaltending issues. New Jersey's is pretty bad, but it can't be any worse than what Carolina's doing right now. And, you mentioned that, close game, 2-1, against the Caps. They end up losing it. And then they announced today that they're giving Aaron Dell, our old buddy Aaron Dell, getting a tryout, which is just stunning. I mean, one, I thought he was with the Columbus organization. I didn't realize that they had released him at some point. Two, when you look at his numbers, just last year in the AHL, where he spent most of his time with the San Jose Barracuda, 15-17 goals against in the 3-4 or higher, below 900 save percentage. His last 21 starts in the NHL over the last 3 years, 2-18-1 combined. This is just an absolute mess. And I said this going into the free agency show. Makes no sense to bring back Antti Ranta and Fredrik Andersen when we know how often they get hurt. And now you're in this situation. And the fact that you had a Pyotr Kochetkov, who you threw into playoff games when you needed him, he delivered to the best of his ability, played well in the AHL, helped the team win a Calder Cup. and then looked decent in some certain starts when you gave him the time. But instead, you threw him in and you're carrying 3 goalies. He wasn't getting any looks in the AHL because you guys don't have an AHL team. So now you have this. Kochekov's confidence is rocked. Anderson will be coming back at some point, but okay, so when does he get hurt again is what the question we'll ask there. Antti Raanta, same deal. He's playing good for now, but then he's also kind of hit and miss. And then once he gets on a roll, usually he gets hurt. So now you're going into the recycling bin, not the bargain bin, the recycling bin to get a goaltender like Aaron Dell. This is bad. And like I said, Don Waddell, yes, he's one of the better GMs in the league. But if this stretch causes you to miss the playoffs, when this is a team we're talking about winning the Metro Division, winning the Eastern Conference, being a cup contender, you got to fire Waddell because this is just egregious. And now I've heard rumors and stuff saying that this wasn't his call. This is a call from above. But this is absurd to have a team with this much offensive and defensive talent and you rely on scraps for goaltending. You should learn from other teams that doesn't work. So Carolina's in the jackpot, and that's something we'll be looking for. If they do sign it, as you call him, farming the Dell, hopefully we'll be putting some money in our pockets once again.
I get the feeling just from what I've seen from a side. You said it came from a call from above. With this
that's rumors I'm hearing. That doesn't surprise me. Not Dell, but the fact that of bringing Raanta and Anderson back. That wasn't Waddell's call. That was done over here.
Yeah, which to me, and look, he's clearly one of these passionate, obsessed with the team owners, and I'm talking about Tom Dundon. But from an astute sports mind standpoint, I'm not so sure it's there for him.
Yeah.
So that's what I sense. He's a little fanatical fan of the team, and he's got to have some kind of say and some kind of input. And you're right. I definitely think there's some truth to that with what we have seen here from Tom Dundon as an owner here of the Carolina Hurricanes. So, yeah, it's a mess. Aaron Dell is not going to be your answer. They called up this young kid, too, as well, that's in the mix now, Parrots. You know, what's he going to deliver? And you've got Pyotr Kochetkov, and now Antti Raanta's down in Alex's original home, Chicago, with the Chicago Wolves. And to me, people are going to say, okay, he's down there to get his game back on track. Will he get his game back on track down there? Because, look, he's an older guy. This has got to be a blow to Antti Raanta's ego and confidence, being thrown down to the AHL after all these years in the twilight of his career. And what I'm doing right now while Alex was talking is trying to find the next time the Wolves play in the AHL, and I see it's tomorrow, hosting the Manitoba Moose. I'm going to be on Manitoba in the over in that game. I'm telling you, I'm betting that right now, in fact.
Makes sense.
I'm betting that.
Makes
Manitoba
sense.
in the over. Yeah.
And I'll tell you why it makes total sense. And I'm a Wolves fan. The Wolves have been awful this year. And the reason they've been awful this year is because they've had to hire a bunch of, just free agent randoms because they chose not to have an affiliate with Carolina, which has caused this whole kind of mess to begin with. That's why you've seen Carolina guys not being able to really rehab or do the normal routines with AHL clubs. They've sent them to like 3 different places so far. And the Wolves have struggled. And that's also a good bet because it's the Wolves on a Wednesday night, which that's almost the same run like a Hawks on a Sunday night. So, yeah, it makes sense. If you're looking to bet some AHL action, Manitoba Moose might be a good pick tomorrow.
Yeah, our guy Goose in the chat says, according to a report from Frank Saravalli, that Antti Raanta asked to be sent down. Well, if that's the case, that's commendable. I do give him that credit, but I don't know if that's going to be.
But here's the thing: that team is not going to. You know what I'm saying? He's not. It's one thing to do that with.
They're not going to be the defensive stalwarts that you've been having in Carolina these last couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So right. So no matter what his work looks like, the numbers aren't going to reflect it because this is a bad team in front of him. So I don't know if that's going to help bring his confidence back.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Give me Manitoba in the over tomorrow in that AHL game against the Chicago Wolves. I'm going to put that theory to the test that this is not going to be the cure that what ails Antti Raanta, this little experiment down there in the AHL. All right, let's get to Monday's card. We'll begin in the Motor City, Anaheim, Detroit. Detroit minus 240, home favorites, 6.5 the total here in this game. This is a really tricky game. Detroit's not playing with Detroit. I don't want to lay this price with. I don't even love the -1 regulation, anything with Detroit. 1-5 in their last 6 games. The only victory was at St. Louis against the Blues. The game before they fired Craig Berube. So that's not really what you want to see out of a big favorite. But for Anaheim, it's a tough spot, back-to-back, third road game in 4 nights after beating New Jersey 5-1. Do we trust them to win 2 in a row? John Gibson left the game due to dehydration yesterday against the New Jersey Devils. Lucas Dostal had to finish the game, and Lucas Dostal is likely going to start tonight because Gibson's unavailable. Gibson's away tending to the birth of his child. So that's what we are looking at. Probably Dostal in net, although it hasn't been confirmed at the moment. Ville Husso will be in net for Detroit. They're still without, of course, David Perron's serving the suspension. And Robbie Fabry has shown up on the injured list as a potential miss here, a game-time decision for him. And obviously we know how well he's played. And certainly I know firsthand, betting all these props lately with Robbie Fabry, but there is a chance he misses this game for Detroit in this one. I do kind of lean over because after a game where they've only scored 1 goal combined, Detroit against Philadelphia and Carolina in the last 2 losses, only 1 goal in those 2 games combined. But doesn't this feel like a breakout game for Detroit? It really does. A tired Anaheim team. They've been on the road quite a bit. Dostal's going to have to play on back-to-back nights. I could definitely see Detroit getting a bunch of goals and getting their offense and their confidence back again. So I think the over 3.5, I might lean that way with Detroit team total. Certainly would lean over 6.5. I'm also, and I'm not convinced this game is tight late, but I have to bet something on this draw, Alex, based on the history. I have to. I mean, the history of the Ducks and the Red Wings. I mean, you talk about Draw City, Draw Island, which we've been calling the New York Islanders. That's what it's been for the Ducks and the Red Wings head-to-head. 4 of the last 5 meetings have gone to overtime or a shootout, and 5 of the last 8 meetings overall have gone past regulation. So can't ignore that. Have to sprinkle a little bit here on the draw. Alex, what do you like here? Anaheim, Detroit.
Yes, the only thing that I have is a draw. And like you mentioned, that it's been a strong history. And like I said, with Anaheim, second night of a back-to-back, and I could see where they would want to tighten things up a little bit. Like I said, Detroit hasn't, they've gone a little cold with the offense, but I could see, like I said, if they do break out, that still doesn't mean that they're going to be, shutting Anaheim down completely on defense. So I could definitely see this one going back and forth and getting past 60 minutes. A plus price is worth taking a shot with.
Especially a plus 420 price, which is what we have at FanDuel. With that history, 4 of the last 5 head-to-head meetings, Anaheim, Detroit going to overtime or a shootout. So at plus 420, we've got to look at that draw here with the Ducks and the Red Wings. Yeah, a Dylan Larkin, yep. That's another thing, too. You talk about an emotional boost. Definitely getting a Dylan Larkin back would be that. He's had to deal with a lot lately with his wife and the unfortunate circumstance with their young baby. And then, of course, the Ottawa injury that he suffered in that game against the Senators, but now he's back. As far as props go, Joe Veleno with Larkin and Kane looks like the top line tonight for Detroit. So Veleno, again, just screams value for him. DeBrincat with Comfort and Raymond. I'm a little surprised they've split up Kane and DeBrincat, but hey, Kane and DeBrincat together hasn't been working the last couple of games for Detroit. So Derek Lalonde shaking things up just a little bit as far as his lineups are concerned. So that's where we're looking at here. DeBrincat birthday, says Cuban. Okay. Yep, that's not a bad it's funny in the NBA that happens too. The guy that it's his birthday. It's funny how many times he ends up producing and playing a good game on his birthday. So that's an angle that's worth considering, you could say, for sure. So keep that in mind as far as this game goes. All right, Minnesota and Pittsburgh. Penguins minus 115, home favorites, 6 the total here in this game. Penguins off an absolute despicable performance against Toronto. Touchdown and the extra point for the Toronto Maple Leafs against them on Saturday night. A 7-0 beatdown in favor of the Leafs over the Penguins. I mean, handicapping 101 says, don't you want to take Pittsburgh here in this spot? In theory, you would think so. But, man, that's such a bad loss. And to be honest, even the wins they had before that to snap the losing streak were Arizona and Montreal. It's nothing really to be all that excited about. And Minnesota, I thought maybe they were going to start, to come back down to earth with John Hines behind the bench when they lost to Edmonton and Vancouver. And since then, they've reeled off 3 straight wins. Seattle, Calgary, and a very impressive shootout win against Vancouver, beating a Canucks team that's played some very good hockey of late. So, this is a tricky game for me overall as far as the side goes. I think Pittsburgh's definitely going to, in theory, you would think they want to play a great game tonight, bounce back, have a much harder, stronger, more intense effort, and be a lot better defensively. That's another concern too. Pittsburgh has their issues in their own end. They break down in coverage too often. They leave their goalie hanging out to dry sometimes. And Minnesota is playing the polar opposite defensively right now. They are shutting teams down. They're playing a very tight, structured style of defense right now under John Hines. They've given up just 3 goals in the last 3 games combined. So this could be an under, believe it or not, here with Minnesota-Pittsburgh. I mean, Minnesota's not a team I'm looking to bet an over with right now. We've talked about that as they try to tighten things up. Pittsburgh, not so much am I keen on their games under the total, but for one night, you would think, where's the focus have to be after you get embarrassed by Toronto? Doesn't it have to be at the defensive end? That's where it has to start for Pittsburgh if they're going to rebound tonight following that game against the Leafs. So the under actually does make some sense here. If you look at head-to-head between these teams, it's actually been a very heavy over series. But last year in Pittsburgh, we did see an under between these two teams, the last head-to-head meeting last April, which was here in Pittsburgh. So I lean under. I lean draw. I don't love either one, quite honestly, though. And from a side, nothing for me. I won't bet against Pittsburgh off a blowout, embarrassing loss, but I don't want to bet against Minnesota either. Like they've picked it up again, 3 straight wins, and playing really, really tight, not giving up a lot. And Gustafsson in between the pipes has been great for them, and I probably favor him a little bit over Nedeljkovic here in the goaltending matchup. What do you think here, Alex? Minnesota, Pittsburgh.
So I did bet a small half unit on Pittsburgh minus $1.20 yesterday. And like I said, sometimes you run the risk of betting early, kind of getting screwed, and kind of got a double whammy here because one, definitely was not expecting Nedeljkovic to start for the Penguins, but also was expecting Marc-Andre Fleury to get the start for the Wild. And so now that kind of throws things completely out of whack with the handicap here, because that would have been a spot where I think it could have been a close, tight game, would have leaned with the draw, could have seen Pittsburgh winning that game. But definitely seeing Fleury give a better effort in what would have been his last start in Pittsburgh. Now that that's not the case, I don't really know what to think of this game, especially from a totals perspective. I would naturally want to go under, but Nedeljkovic and Gustafsson, like I said, both these teams have kind of, the little bump we saw from Minnesota has kind of regressed a little bit. Can't trust them offensively. We know how Pittsburgh's offense, until this past weekend had just virtually been non-existent. So it's a pass for me. I still got my half a unit. Might be one that I decided to cash out, honestly. But I could see where Pittsburgh still finds a way to win this game because I just don't trust Minnesota's form. And like I said, I believe the regression is going to continue with Minnesota before it does with Pittsburgh.
Definitely. I think if I were to look at props, Boldy, 100% Rich. Boldy go where no man has gone before. Matt Boldy's been absolutely outstanding for Minnesota since the coaching change. For Pittsburgh, I'll give you a couple that have value. Again, I don't know if they're going to be able to find the back of the net, but Drew O'Connor on the top line and Valtteri Puustinen on the second line. I've mentioned these guys a couple of times, and you know what? They are getting the opportunity, to produce offensively for this Pittsburgh Penguins team. We'll see if they can take advantage of that here. So the opportunity. So yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, I would look at maybe those two guys for value in terms of the player props tonight in that game. All right, let's go back to Montreal, Winnipeg. We've got the Winnipeg Jets minus 250 home favorites, 6 the total, shaded to the under in this game. Beat goes on for the Jets. What a strong stretch of hockey this has been for this Winnipeg Jets team. They have won an incredible amount of games lately, 6 and 1, I should say, in their last 7 games. They've been exceptional. Very, very strong run lately. Beating Colorado not once, but twice. How impressive is that? Beating LA 5-2 in LA against the Kings after being down 2-0 in that game. Just extremely impressive from this Winnipeg Jets team. I ain't stepping in their way right now, that's for sure. Montreal has been a tough team for them, though. I want to point that out. They've won the last 2 meetings. Now, both of those were in Montreal. Winnipeg's gotten the better of them here in Winnipeg. Very important to point that out in these recent meetings. So it's kind of been a homer series, the home team winning. Montreal coming off a 5-3 win against the Islanders. But this Montreal team has been pretty predictable. Off a win, as in they haven't won another game right after that. They've been bad trying to string wins together, this Montreal Canadiens team. So not sure I'm ready to trust them to be able to keep the win streak going here against the Jets tonight. We have seen some semblance of overtime games with these teams. 3 of the last 6 have gone past regulation. I do want to mention that. And for Montreal, we've seen overtime or a shootout for them in 3 of the last 7. So I have a mild stance toward the draw, and that's about it here for me with this one. Nothing in terms of the money line. Totals, I think, could go either way. It has been an under-trending series history, by the way, with these two teams. 3 of the last 4 have gone under. So it might just be a small bet on the draw for me and maybe some props as well. Alex, what do you think here? Canadians, Jets.
Yeah, I like this draw just as much as I do with that Ducks and Wings. Montreal, 11 regulation draws this season. As you mentioned, 3 of the last 6 meetings with the Jets going past regulation, 3 of the last 7 overall gone past regulation. This feels like it could be a tight and low and slow and kind of boring game, to be honest. But that's fine. As long as it goes past regulation, we'll take boring all day long and cash the ticket.
All right, and Jake Allen, by the way, 2 goals away from 100 career goals. He scored 2 goals the last time he played the Canadians. There you go, and that was in right, that 4-3 game on October 28th. That's an excellent point. Lowry scored twice, so Lowry at least to get 1. But if you believe in, go for the gusto, get your 100th goal tonight. 38-1 for 2 goals. I don't mind that. That's not a bad option there. But to get 1, yes. For sure. I think it's worth a look here. You're right. He's scored twice against Montreal, Cuban. So good thought there with that. I'm going with Gabe Vilardi personally. Gabe Vilardi's on fire. You bet Gabe Vilardi any which way you can right now for this team. We knew it was going to happen, right? We knew that as he gradually worked his way back from the injury absence, he was going to get better. He was going to get stronger for the Winnipeg Jets, and he's done that. He's now scored 4 goals in the last 4 games, 3 goals, 6 points in the last 2 games against the Avs and the Kings, better teams than Montreal. So I like anything and everything Vilardi. Goal prop, assist prop. I'd go even over 1.5 points on Vilardi tonight. Get a really nice plus price for him in this game tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. I'll check out Bet365, see what they offer. Vilardi, 2+ points, plus 375. How about that? Put that in your pipe and smoke it. There you go. Over 1.5 points, Gabe Vilardi, plus 375. The guy's got multi-point games in 2 straight. 6 points total in the last 2 games. So over 1.5 points is a great value there at plus 375 for Gabe Vilardi tonight with the Winnipeg Jets in this game, no doubt. All right, let's move along. We've got Seattle and Dallas next up. The Stars minus 190, home favorites, 6 the total here in this game. I mean, I'm pretty damn sure I'm going to be on the first period over. I'm pretty damn sure Alex is going to be on the first period over. It's just, at this point now, it's just been so repetitively cashing in that you have to just bet it until you start losing one of these times. And this should be an interesting matchup here with Seattle and Dallas tonight. Dallas coming off the loss to St. Louis. Tough spot, though, for them because it was a back-to-back. Jake Ottinger had gotten injured the game before against Ottawa. So they had to go back to Wedgwood, on the second night of back-to-back games against St. Louis. And the Blues are another one of those teams that since they fired the coach, they can't do anything wrong. They can't lose all of a sudden. And here they are. They've now won 2 in a row since firing Craig Berube, including a 4-3 win in overtime against Dallas. So we'll see if they can manage to keep the or bounce back, I should say, Dallas from that loss here against Seattle tonight. Keep in mind, when it comes to these two teams, this is the first matchup since the playoff series last year in the second round where Dallas lost, or Dallas won, I should say, in 7 games. Seattle lost in 7 games to the Dallas Stars in a very hard-fought series going into that one. And to be honest with Seattle, they've played better here the last 3 games. We saw them obviously beat Florida, pound Chicago, took LA to a shootout, a very good Kings team, even though they lost that game. Albeit, I will say this, they were outshot badly, 38-19 in that game. Really were in it because of Joey Decord, who was very, very good in net for Seattle. And to be honest with you, Decord's playing better and better with each start. And he's getting more comfortable. He's playing every other night now, every game with Grubauer still out. Decord is expected to be in net tonight, although it hasn't been confirmed. It will be Scott Wedgwood once again for Dallas, of course, with Jake Ottinger still unavailable. So it's back to Wedgwood tonight. I think this is a sneaky Seattle draw spot for me. A little split on both. The Kraken and the draw. I think it's very possible here in this game to be a tight, competitive affair. Seattle, of course, has gone to overtime or a shootout 2 of their last 5 games. Dallas is not immune to close games lately. They've had 3 games go past regulation in the last 10, including the St. Louis game. The Ottawa game Friday night nearly went to overtime as well. So this is, to me, a take a shot with Seattle here, plus 160 and the draw. Keep in mind, Dallas has not played fluid, strong, dominant hockey in the last week or two. I mean, every Dallas game lately, even in the victories, Alex, not pretty against Detroit. They were down early in that game, came back to win. Not pretty against Ottawa. They were down in that game, came back to win. The Washington game in a shootout, they were, up and down in that game, but found a way to win. The only dominant win they've had of late was the Tampa game, 8-1. Every other game, they've had to work hard for it, and they haven't played 60 strong minutes of hockey from start to finish. So Seattle, the draw will split between those two, and I'm also going to be on first period over. Lean full game over, but just like most Dallas games lately, put a little more percentage on the first period over. Alex, Seattle, Dallas.
So, yeah, of course, first period over, both teams to score in the first period. And then I am sprinkling a little bit. It's not my favorite, but I am sprinkling a bit on the draw. It's been mentioned in the chat a few times over the last couple of weeks. Joey Decourt, in 18 starts, 7 of them have gone past regulation. So he has been a draw magnet as far as in goal for Seattle. And like you mentioned, Dallas hasn't been playing their best hockey. They know they're going to have to kind of tighten things up a little bit too. This can't be a 5-5 kind of an overtime game because, with Wedgwood and Murray now for the foreseeable future, they know that those defensemen know they got to play a little bit tighter up front to make sure things don't get out of hand. I don't expect to see 5-5 anyway with Seattle. Their offense has just been kind of hit or miss, more on the miss part. So I do think we get goals early. Things could kind of slow down, though, in the second and third periods. So that's why I say I'm definitely staying away from a full game over. We'll keep rolling with the first period overs. Both teams to score in the first and sprinkle a little bit on the draw. And there's a player prop that I like in this game as well,
which we'll have at the Bargain Bin Special of the Night segment coming up in just a little bit. Yeah, as far as props go for this one, there's some good options. We should see goals, especially early, given Dallas's torrid first period over streak that they're on. Marchment, always a possibility. Duchesne, Seguin, that whole line's been good. Pavelski really did damage in the playoffs, I know, last year against Seattle as well. So maybe a Pavelski look here in this game. Johnston, I could see him starting to get going. I'll tell you what here. Do you ride the wave with guys like Miro Heiskanen and Thomas Harley and Esa Lindell, who have been scoring goals lately from the blue line for Dallas? I mean, hell, Lindell got back-to-back games with a goal last week. Not only the Detroit call that Alex had, which was a Hall of Fame-worthy bargain bin call that night, Esa Lindell to score against Detroit, but he had a goal the very next game as well for the Stars against Ottawa. So it's pretty crazy to see that. So don't be shy about, just putting even, $5-10 on, Harley or Heiskanen or Lindell to score a goal here for the Dallas Stars. For Seattle, a couple of players stand out to me. Wenberg is starting to step up for them. No question about that. Bjorkstrand, who is a streaky guy, streaky player, streaky scorer, now has goals in back-to-back games and 4 points in the last 2 games. So whenever you start to see Oliver Bjorkstrand crank things up, you basically ride it until he cools off again, which will happen. Like, he's streaky. He can score like 8 points in 6 games and then go 10 games without a goal or a point. So that's the kind of player he can be. But Bjorkstrand is starting to roll right now for Seattle. So that's definitely a consideration as well tonight as far as player props in this game. All right, final game of this Monday card, Florida and Calgary. We've got Matthew Tkachuk taking on his old team and returning to Calgary here, although he did that last year as well. So this is not the first time he's been back there, but still, nevertheless, I'm sure it's going to be a fun atmosphere tonight in Calgary for this one. We've got the Panthers minus 125 road favorites, 6.5 the total. I mean, if you buy into that stuff, Matthew Tkachuk props, Huberdeau props, Weegar props, anyone that was involved in that last year in terms of changing places before last season. You got Weegar and Huberdeau against their old team. You've got for Calgary against Florida. You've got obviously Matthew Tkachuk for Florida against his old team, Calgary. So, yeah, definitely you could make a case for all of those props, in my opinion. You've got Calgary coming off a nice win against Tampa on Saturday night. Give them credit. A nice 6-2 win. Or a nice 4-2 win. They needed it badly to snap the 4-game losing streak. Now they'll take on a Florida team that needed a win in the worst way, quite honestly, because they had a really bad first or 2 games in a row on the road against Vancouver, Seattle, shut out 8-0 in those 2 games combined. But they bounced back strong, handed Edmonton a 5-1 defeat on Saturday. It was just a really good game from Bobrovsky. He was on point after a rough game, particularly against Seattle a couple of games before that. And even the Vancouver game wasn't great, but he bounced back strong. They capitalized on their chances, feeling good again going into this matchup against Calgary. Calgary's one of those teams that, you could think they can use the Tampa Bay game and result to their advantage. I don't feel strongly about trusting Calgary again to win. Florida, we'll see. I'm not fully on board with trusting them either. This is more of a prop game for me rather than anything side or total. Based on the series history, I have to lean over because we've seen the over cash in the majority of the recent head-to-head meetings, 7-3 in the last 10. Last year, these teams played twice, both in November. High-scoring affairs, both of them. Florida Calgary winning 5-4 in a shootout in Florida, and Calgary winning 6-2 at home against Florida last year. So Calgary won both games, and they both went over the total. I like over 6.5 here, and I'm going to look at some props. Like I mentioned, you could sprinkle on any of the players facing their old team. Sharon Golvich. Yeah, that's what we got to call him now. 100% Cuban. We keep on riding the wave with Igor right now for Calgary. He has been on fire for this Calgary Flames team. No question about that. So I definitely think we'll see goals. And by the way, Anthony Stolarz, not Bobrovsky, in net tonight for the Florida Panthers. And Markstrom, by the way, back for Calgary, returning from his absence. And you know how I feel about the goalies that have been out for a while. I don't trust them to be at their sharpest. I don't trust them to be at their absolute best that first game back. And Stolarz, we'll see how he fares here in this one. He's actually got decent numbers on the year, quite honestly. The Columbus game, he played okay, didn't face a ton of shots, did struggle against the Islanders. But I think when you look at Calgary, still, I think, have the opportunity here to be able to find the back of the net here against Anthony Stolarz. And I think Florida will score their share as well. So I like over 6.5 more than anything else here in this game. Alex, final game of the night. What do you think? Florida, Calgary.
Yeah, this would be a live game for me mostly. I like the overs, but I'm going to try and get better prices on first period and full games. Overs in game. Also, we'll take a small shot with both teams to score in the first period, plus 150. Like you said, Stolarz, his numbers have been okay, but when I look back at his numbers against Calgary, 1-1-1 in 4 starts with an 8.93 save percentage of 3.68 goals against average. So he's gotten lit up against this team in his career. Like you said, it's been a fairly high scoring back and forth between these two teams. Calgary not as good as recent years, so kind of have to throw that look of them, like 10-2-1 the last 13. Kind of have to throw that to the side. Can't trust the Flames in the spot. Can't trust Florida on this long road trip either, laying a price. So to pass on the side and waiting for the in game to grab some better numbers than the totals.
Great prop game. This is going to be a fun prop game to get involved with. I mean, for Florida, Sam Bennett too. Sam Bennett, a former Flame. I forgot about that one. Yeah. There's another guy that might be able to make an impact. That's a good one, too. I could see Sam Bennett being a good prop look here for the Florida Panthers. Now, offense has been a little bit slow to come by for him this season, but he did finally have a bust-out performance against Edmonton. 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. Now faces his old team, Calgary. Things just didn't pan out well for him there, so that's a good prop look. Bennett, no question about that. Reinhart, Verhaeghe, Tkachuk, Rodriguez. I mean, I like all of those to potentially make an impact tonight. Calgary, the number one. I don't mind Coleman either for Calgary. Blake Coleman, he's been playing better lately. Connor Zary, we've talked about him. But number one is Igor Sharangovich, no question. Sharangovich, not only on a 5-game goal streak where he has scored 6 goals in the last 5 games, he is also right now on a 6-game point streak. And in a couple of these games recently, 2 of the last 3 games, Igor Sharangovich has had at least 2 points. So this is one of those where take a shot maybe with the over 1.5 points on Sharangovich. Because not only is he scoring right now, he's facilitating. I've seen him pick up some assists as well during this hot streak of his. So you can get at Bet365 Igor Sharangovich here to get 2 points tonight, plus 650. Okay, plus 650. For Igor Sharangovich, over 1.5 points tonight at Bet365. That's a hell of a price. That's an outstanding price right there. He has 2 points or more in 2 of the last 3 games, and he's been at least 1 point in 6 straight games. So if he's already got a great chance to get at least 1 point because he's on a 6-game point streak. And when the players get on these point streaks, they are fired up to keep them going, and they'll move mountains to try to keep the point streak going. So he's got a great chance to get 1 point tonight. You sprinkle on that over 1.5 points plus 650. Like I said, that's a hell of a price tonight in a game that I think we're going to see goals between these two teams as well, the Panthers and the Flames. All right, great stuff. That is the Monday card. We appreciate it. 235 live viewers on YouTube. Hit the like button. This will be, by the way, our last Monday show at this time slot, 3 p.m. Eastern. We will be back to the normal weekday time slot, 2 p.m. Eastern, with this show in the new year. So just make sure you're aware of that. It'll be 2 p.m. Eastern, all weekday shows starting in January. Check out patreon.com/Ice Guys, $10 a month. All the bonus content is there. The daily betting card, player props, goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, and more. All of it, patreon.com/Ice Guys. Unless we get a Christmas miracle with the YouTube subscription abilities to get turned on, we'll be migrating to Patreon with that. And again, we've had a great response. I'm seeing a shit ton of new Patreon signups the last few days. We appreciate it very much. Keep it rolling. That's where you'll find all our bets daily, the player props as well. Make sure you get there, patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. And also, of course, again, probably a little too late for Christmas now, but get some merch, get some gear, iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Yeah, it is a little too late for Christmas, unfortunately. However, we do have, with the new year upcoming, we've already unveiled it. We got a bunch of new merch that's in the store now. We joked about it. We've got the Thailanders and Welcome to Draw Island merch. We've got Draw Season 2.0 merch there as well. We've got the Bargain Bin logo. You can get a sticker. You can get a shirt. You can get a cap with that as well. So a lot of cool new things along with the old standbys. Get all of it at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Yeah, exactly. We got tons of new, themed clothing articles there, but based on what you know and love, basically, all our favorite sayings here: Thailanders, Draw Island, Toronto Maple Draws. Go on down the list. Absolutely. So all of that available at the Ice Guys store. All right, it is time for the Bargain Bin special of the night. We are mind blown that the success that we've had with these bets this season when we introduced this segment, but it's been a hit. We'll see if we can add to the ledger tonight. Alex, we'll start with you. Where are you going for your Monday night Bargain Bin special?
Going back to Big D. It's been a great spot for us lately. Obviously, we've been hitting hot with the first period overs, but we got a couple of really nice bargain bin winners with the Stars here as well. We're going to go back to one of those two guys on the blue line, Miro Heiskanen. Find him at around plus 600 once again to get another goal. I think that's incredible how we haven't seen these prices change too much. He's a guy who's been firing the puck more. Like I said, the defensemen are going to have to get more involved at both ends of the ice now with Ottinger being out. I think we see him get something done offensively. So give me Miro Heiskanen. And once again, my man Miro, plus 600 to get a goal here anytime. It's my bargain bin special tonight.
All right, good stuff. Miro Heiskanen, someone you've cashed with in before here on the Bargain Bin special of the night. And I'm going back to the well with someone I've cashed in with before many times here on the Bargain Bin special. And his price is still somehow in a few books, not every book, but a few books still above plus 300. And that's the guy we just talked about in the last game. Igor Sharangovich is somehow, for the Calgary Flames, somehow on a 5-game goal streak and a 6-game point streak, somehow at Bet Rivers, he is still plus 325 to score a goal tonight in this game against the Florida Panthers. So let's go back to the well with it. Igor Sharangovich, plus 325 for my Bargain Bin special of the night. I was also very tempted to go with over 1.5 points at plus 650 for Sharangovich as my Bargain Bin, but I won't go there. I will bet that, but I won't use it as the Bargain Bin. We'll keep it safe. Plus 325 for him to find the back of the net tonight for the Calgary Flames. That should be a fun game with the Flames against the Florida Panthers tonight with all those players on both sides playing against their former teams. So will be a lot of fun for sure. All right, best bets to wrap it up for this Monday edition of the Ice Guys show. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like here for best bet?
It's a Dallas Stars night, so obviously it's the first period over. Seattle, Dallas, first period over 1.5 minus $1.30 is best thing available right now at Caesars. 9 straight first period overs, 21-5 on the year with the Dallas Stars. I'm just going to keep on rolling with this at these cheap prices. So, give me Stars and Kraken first period over 1.5 is my best bet.
All right, there you go. Stars Kraken over 1.5 first period. And you can get that, by the way, at -125, -130. So a heck of a price here, as my mouse is not working here. So we'll see if we can get the camera situation fixed here. Hold on one sec. It's not changing. Why is that? There we go. We don't mean to keep the camera on Alex this long, but we're waiting on it here. What's going on here with this thing? All right, hold on. We will... That's what the challenges of live. This is just unbelievable. I'm using the laptop clicker, and nothing's changing here. Let me see if I go to meet. There we go. All right. I guess we couldn't put them back on the main screen, but anyway, there we go. Dallas, Seattle over 1.5. And by the way, you can get that at like -125, -130 at some books. So that first period over. So very cheap price. My best bet. Let's go to that last game, Florida, Calgary. Let's go over the total here, over 6.5 with the Panthers and the Flames tonight. Series history has had a lot of goals with these two teams head to head, and I think we'll see more of the same here tonight between these two teams. And actually shop around here, because if you look, there's actually a 6 available at Bet Rivers, so I'm going to go with that. Over 6 -120 with Florida, Calgary. I'd rather have the 6 than the 6.5, obviously, if I can get it. And I can get it with this game. Florida, Calgary, over 6, -120. That is going to be my best bet here for this Monday NHL card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. See, I can't go back to the main screen here. What the hell's going on? There we go, finally. My goodness. That is beyond bizarre. But finally, we're back to normal here with our screen the way it should be. All right, that's a wrap. Appreciate it very much. Hit the like button on the way out. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For Alex P. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Tuesday for another edition of the Ice Guys.